Hello, how you doing?
You look so good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Everybody's really excited in the comments, so I'll be pausing here and there from my questions to get a lot of the questions for everybody else. So first of all, we're so glad that Miguel is okay. For those of us who have been watching since the YouTube series, we had to wait extra long to find out.
It was almost 2 years, I feel like. It was a super long time.
I made a friend promise me I probably shouldn't be saying this out loud. My friend works at Netflix, and I said, listen, if I get really sick and like I'm on death's table, you guys have to let me find out what happened.
That's funny, yeah.
Legit. Okay, so you're normally so active on the series as Miguel. What was it like for you to kind of take a step back and have to work through all of those injuries?
You know what, I think finishing season 2 and realizing that I was getting kicked off of the balcony at first was like, oh, okay, like, dang it, this is going to be kind of, like, oh man, it kind of hurts, but at the same time, our writers, Josh, John, and Hayden, have like the best ideas in terms of like, they, even before thinking of the show, they had like the first 4 seasons like already thought up in their head. So I think there was like a lot of trust that went into them being like, all right, I have to just kind of trust that what they're writing is like going to be good. And lo and behold, like season 3 ended up turning out really well just because like the payoff was so much more, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, going into, the next season, I think it's going to be even crazier now that it feels like the tables have kind of turned.
Well, but we were also have been teased with this All Valley fight, which is going to be the all out thing. Like, y'all going to physically like be like where he was at before?
I'm not too sure. I mean, look, you're asking the wrong guy. They don't tell me. I've gotten too many close calls with spoiling stuff. Like I'm the last person that they tell. I really have no clue in terms of season 4, what's happening. Usually, I would have already met with Josh, John, and Hayden to kind of talk about what's going on, but because of COVID and everything, like that just hasn't happened yet. But I can tell you for sure, like I feel like our seasons are aging like fine wine, like they're just getting better with time, and I think season 4 is going to be no different.
Now, the bond between Sensei and his student like grew so much stronger this season. That's one of my favorite relationships on the show. I mean, again, as you know, as a big fan of the original, I'm getting to see a completely different Johnny Lawrence. So what I saw, So can you kind of talk about that relationship and those funny moments where we see, Johnny's really trying, but he's so stuck in the 80s. I mean, dangling sexy magazines. It's so funny, like, to see you're like, I could just see these all online. Those are so fun to see. So can you kind of dive into that relationship?
Yeah, of course. Johnny really is a character who's stuck in his ways. Like, he is definitely, I mean, from calling people babe to like just everything about him. And I think what makes it so much more funny as someone who gets to work with Billy is that he is the complete opposite of that. Like, he is the sweetest man I've ever met. And it's just so many moments where he'll have to say something and he'll be like, really, do I have like this feels so like not, on par with what I would say. But I think it really is a testament to how good of an actor he is. Like, even though he is a character who is stuck in the 80s and he says some things sometimes that you're like, oh, like you can't say that today. Like on the same, on the flip side, like he really does perform really well. Like, he gives a great performance this season, and he has all the right moments of like emotion, and he really is a great actor. And I think it's so cool to see him getting the recognition that he deserves.
And he's hopefully leading towards being more than just a sensei.
Shit! I don't know about all that. We'll see about that. Yeah, I don't know. That's a little scandalous. I'm not too sure. We'll see. We'll see. In terms of his relationships with Ali, with Godman and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think he'll have to get to Miguel first before he can get. Well, I guess he's already gotten a Carmen without Miguel knowing. But I think it's gonna have some problems if I find out.
If you don't know what's gonna happen, but maybe as the actor, like, how do you think that like Miguel would feel?
Man, that's tough. I think on one hand, Johnny is like the ultimate father figure for Miguel right now. I think he hasn't had a father figure, and I think because of that, he seeks for a lot of that guidance and reassurance and like what's the word for it? Validation through Johnny and through karate. But I think there's a line, you know what I'm saying? Like, and also I feel like, you know, Miguel is so aloof to his relationship with his mom, or like Johnny's relationship with Carmen, that like it's kind of not even really on his radar. He, you know, Miguel's heard so much about this girl Ali that, you know, finally they get to meet, and I feel like that's kind of what Miguel's headspace is at. And, you know, totally unbeknownst to him is this relationship with, you know, Carmen. So I think, you know, as an actor, it might be a little weird to be like, what the heck? Like, it feels like, you know, mixing business with pleasure, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know if that'll work for Miguel.
I kicked off Cobra Kai week yesterday with Vanessa Rubio, who plays your mom.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And, oh my God. So we even like imaginarily planned the wedding, and so they would start together. So that's just where we're at with that. And then somebody actually from the questions had also asked, you know, what about Miguel's dad? Is that a storyline that you would like to see covered?
You know, I think I don't want to say ignorance is bliss, but I feel like I don't know if every stone needs to be turned. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think and I think similarly to even like, you know, I don't want to say myself necessarily, but like, I feel like there are a lot of kids out there who didn't grow up with, you know, a parental figure, whether that be I grew up without a mom or I grew up without a dad. And I think like having a character that's able to find that sense of guidance and that sense of love without needing a father figure is something that's very important. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it also it provides a chance for kids and adults, you know, to relate to that experience of like, maybe I didn't have a dad, but you know, Johnny's the closest thing. And in some ways, I feel like he's a lot better than a dad would be. You know what I'm saying? And I think, you know, even though people say blood is thicker than water, like I think Johnny really gives Miguel that love that he's yearned for. And obviously he has his mother and his grandmother, but I think it's refreshing, you know, for Miguel to have that figure. And I feel like, you know, and a lot of people can relate to that, you know?
That's a really nice perspective there. Thank you. Because I mean, we all want to know everything, but
yeah, you're like, but the conspiracies say that Daniel is his real dad. So but I feel like I always see conspiracies like that, like Terry Silver is Miguel's dad, or Mike Barnes is like, you know, or like, yeah. So I guess obviously in the world of Cobra Kai, nothing is off limits, but I think we'll just have to wait and see if that's a storyline that they end up going with.
With it being Terry Silver would be diving into telenovela territory.
Exactly. Everything would be so dramatic. People would get shot, and then like 2 episodes later would be like, I'm reviving, like I am back from the dead. So it's definitely I don't want to say it's out of the cards, but it's not on my radar.
You have a lot of friends from Latin America who are so proud to see representation from you within this Karate Kid universe, including me. And people in the comments all want to know if you speak Spanish. ¿Hablas español?
Hablo un poquito de español, pero entiende bastante. Like, I feel like I understand it perfectly. Like, you could say anything to me, and a lot of that is because Spanish was my first language. Like, I grew up speaking Spanish, and then, you know, it was just me and my mom. And then once I went to school, then, like, everyone only spoke English. You know what I'm saying? So it was a little bit different, and I feel like because I was at school majority of the time, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to learn English super quickly, and then it kind of got to the point where I was just like speaking English mostly and kind of losing that Spanish. But, you know, recently I've been trying to get back into it, but man, like that's probably one of my biggest regrets, like not keeping up with it. And it's just like, oh, now I'm like biting myself just because I'm like, damn, it would have been like, so I understand it perfectly. And of course, like, when I go to my abuela's house, like, there's no way that I'm speaking English. Like, I'll struggle through it, and I'll be like, because I'm not going to eat if I, you know what I'm saying? Like, so there are definitely other moments, but I'd love to get back into it, and I'm working on it.
Yeah, great. I mean, you and Vanessa can practice on set. When I asked her, I said, hey, Xolo's going to be here tomorrow. What should I ask him? And she goes, ask him how come he's always making me laugh when we're not shooting. So what is it that you're doing? Are you saying some kind of jokes, or are you tickling her?
You know, I think honestly, I think a lot of it is just you know, because Vanessa and I don't really film all that often together, like I feel like Johnny is the person that or Billy is the person that I film the most with. Getting to film with people like Vanessa or Mary or whoever else on the cast that you don't really have a lot of scenes with, when you get to see them, it's kind of like, yes, let's pick back up from where we left off, you know, like with the jokes or whatever. And I feel like definitely myself and Jacob are two of the biggest jokesters on set. So I feel like there's never a moment where we're serious. And I think it's a blessing, but also a curse, because sometimes like some serious stuff will be going on and I'll always still be making jokes. And I feel like that's a lot of the time, like that's how I handle stuff. Like even in my real life, even handling serious stuff, like I feel like I tend to make jokes about it. And sometimes it gets me in a little bit of trouble, but Vanessa, yeah, she's funny. She's good.
Okay, now one of my favorite scenes, again, as somebody who grew up in this era, was seeing you go to a Dee Snider concert, because I cannot imagine anybody that would be at the top of Johnny's list to see in concert than Dee Snider, Twisted Sister. So can you talk about kind of shooting that scene? Did you know Dee Snider? Did you get to hang out with him on set?
Yeah, so Dee Snider is a friend of Billy's. Like they go back, I guess, and when they were figuring out, you know, Miguel and Johnny are going to go to this concert, and that's going to be like how we find out that Miguel is able to use his feet again. Billy was like, "Oh, I'm friends with Dee Snider. Maybe we can have him come in." And it was the coolest thing because it felt like a real concert, but there were only like less than 100 people in the crowd. You know what I'm saying? So it felt like this real concert that it was almost like a private party, you know what I'm saying? I think that's probably one of the coolest parts. But also, like, I personally, I don't listen to a ton. Like, I know the big songs, you know, the "We're Not Gonna," like, I know the bigger songs, but getting to see, like, they did so many songs, and it's like, it's unfortunate because obviously when you're, you know, filming for television and stuff like that, you film for hours and hours just to get like 30 seconds or a minute of footage. But it was so cool to see him go through like the whole lineup, and it definitely was a cool experience to you know, go through it with Billy, and you could definitely tell that they were friends, and it was really dope.
So so we're going to talk about the finale.
Okay.
I mean, I cried, like the moment where we see these two former foes to finally, you know, find a common ground, beat the big bad guy. Is something I never expected. So does this maybe set up the possibility of Miguel and Robbie maybe being friends one day?
Look, I think Miguel and Robbie have a long way to go. I think, you know, being that they haven't seen each other since the events, I'm trying to think. I guess they briefly saw each other on that finale at the very, very end. But there's like, and they saw each other when with Sam. But I feel like those two examples are like probably the worst moments that we could have seen each other. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like because of that, it kind of feels like one step forward, two steps back. But I'm not too sure. I feel like there is a world where maybe they're acquaintances or friends, but I feel like there's a long way to go. And it's definitely not happening while Samantha's in the picture. Like, I think we've seen twice now how when the three of them get together, like it just kind of ends up not being a great mood. So I think whether that means, you know, having to duke it out in a fight or just talking about it, I feel like so many problems on our show could be solved by just communication. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not too sure.
My new friend Marty Cove is in the chat right now. I see him.
Martin.
Saying hi.
Marty.
What is it going to be like, you think, for Miguel to have to face off against his former sensei at All Valley? I mean, again, you don't know what's going to happen, but how do you figure that it's going to happen? What's he going to be feeling?
In my third eye.
You guys are going to swap each other's legs.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna sweep each other's legs. I'm trying to think. You know, Kreese is definitely the biggest bad in the whole show. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he's consistently chaotic, and I think because of that, you know, we saw in season 2 Miguel kind of fall into I don't want to say a trap, but like go down that path of, you know, thinking that Kreese is, you know, the right mentality, and I think Kreese is the right mentality for like a Hawk or a Tori, who are very sporadic and love that chaos. But I think for Miguel, you know, Johnny's Cobra Kai is definitely the Cobra Kai for him. And I think we saw that with Eagle Fang, how like we ride for each other. And I think Kreese is definitely someone to be, you know, not to be reckoned with, I think, or not to be messed with. Like, he definitely, even in person, like, he's the most, I don't want to say the most, but like, he just gives off this like intimidating, even with that, like, he's also the sweetest guy ever, but he just walks on set and you're just like, oh man, like, he's the real deal. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny, like, there's this scene where he has these cigars and it's like totally Marty, like, there's no Kreese, like, it's just Marty. And there's this scene where I think he sees Daniel or he sees someone and he goes, how you doing, big boy, or something like that. And he says it and I'm like, oh my God, that was totally just Marty. Like, that wasn't Kreese at all. And I think that's something that's so great about him. It's just like, he is so undeniably Kreese that it's like there's some roles that you can be like, oh, you know, they could have casted whoever, and, you know, it's kind of like the lines that make the role, but he is in and out Kreese for sure. And I think that's why it's so awesome to get to film with him.
Yeah, he's such a legend too. I mean, I've watched him forever, and when I got to do my interview, I was like facing my fears. If you remember when we did the round table, I'm like,
yeah,
there was Kreese and Freddy Krueger. So
nice.
I mean, but he's just got such a nice energy about him. I don't want to ruin his reputation, but I mean, he's definitely not one to be messed with. Yes. But you can tell that he's also like a little bit of a softie.
Of course.
Okay, and then so to speak up, we have Jacob coming on after you. I want to talk about I want to talk about the friendship between Hawk and Miguel and how it changed the game and brought him back to the light side.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, I'd love Miguel to take the credit for that, but I think it's his relationship with Dimitri. You know, I think they've been friends for the longest, and you see it in the season finale that he really, like, even though times were hard and Hawk does some really messed up stuff in season 3 and in the previous seasons, like, family or I guess friends. I think the quote is friends are the family you choose or whatever. But I think, like, Dimitri and Hawk really complement each other so well that it's nice and refreshing to see Hawk go on the other side, you know, and really, because I feel like, you know, Johnny gave everyone that joined Cobra Kai at the beginning that sense of confidence and, like, a sense of belonging through Cobra Kai. And I feel like the Kreese's version of Cobra Kai kind of molded that into something a little bit harder and a little bit more solid. But I don't think that's what these teenagers need. You know what I'm saying? I think, you know, it's maybe that works for adults and you know, the Terry Silvers of the world. But I think, you know, Hawk really does belong at Johnny's Cobra Kai. So I hope that in season 4 we can see more of that. But really, I mean, they don't tell me anything. I have no clue.
Okay. Before we let you go, if there's any questions here, I've seen like a lot of people, but things go so fast that everybody wants Miguel and Sam together. Any questions? I think everybody's just happy to see you and to see that Miguel survived. I know I was. Let me see. When do they start filming season 4?
So I'm not too sure yet. I mean, there's like a tentative date, but really with COVID and everything going on, like it's really hard to tell. Like everything is so wishy-washy, and having everyone quarantine and having it really is not something that we could just be like, all right, let's start back up again. Like, there's a lot of preparation that needs to go into it, especially being that we don't film in Los Angeles. Like, I feel like Los Angeles has way more strict rules when it comes to COVID and all that stuff. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a little bit before we can get to filming and whatnot. But, you know, I think once we get the ball rolling, there's no stopping. And I think hopefully once we start filming, the road to having it released won't be as long as it was before.
Do you have a favorite scene that you shot from this season?
Oh man. I mean, personally, that I shot, I mean, honestly, I really love this scene at the very beginning in the hospital with Johnny. I think, in terms of the stuff that I enjoy watching the most, just in, you know, televisions and movies, it is drama. Like, it is the like character driven stuff or whatever, those indie films. And I feel like that scene was the closest to that I've had the chance to do on Cobra Kai. And I hope that I get more moments like that, because it's, you know, we saw it with Jacob in his cold open. Like we've seen it with Mary. Johnny even has his own moments, you know? So I think that those are the moments that I really tend to gravitate towards more, but obviously the season finale is one that, like, it can't be compared. It feels like we're kind of topping ourselves each year. And I hope that, you know, season 4 is no different.
What do you say to we have an outpouring of fans that want Tori and Miguel. Is that completely dead there?
You know, I think for me, it goes like this. My top 3, it goes 3. You know, I think Miguel and Tori are my 3rd favorite. Miguel and Sam are my 2nd favorite, and Miguel and Hawk are my 1st favorite. I think that's like they're brothers for life. And I mean, I feel like, you know, it didn't work with you know, with Johnny and Carmen. Like, you can't mix business with pleasure just yet, but I think you can with Hawk and Miguel. So we'll see.
I like that. And so we just started a new podcast called What to Watch. So when you're not working, what are you watching?
Okay, so in terms of TV shows, my favorite TV show, I'd already finished it, so I'm waiting for the 2nd season, but it's called Normal People. It's a Irish show, really, really great. I'm watching a lot of anime right now. That's kind of a lot of what I'm watching. Jujutsu Kaisen is a show that is coming out right now. My Hero Academia is going to come out their new season, but movies, I want to watch the new Wonder Woman movie. I've heard great things about it. Tenet, I've heard good things about. Soul, I want to watch the new, you know, Pixar movie. So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously with a new age of content and like everything streaming service, like there's so much stuff always coming out. It's hard to keep up with it all. But I could say Queen's Gambit was cool. Queen's Gambit was super cool. I've been hearing everyone talk about this Bridgerton show. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I'm like, damn, I genuinely thought it was like a British version of The Bachelor during the trailer. Like, that's what I thought it was, because it looked so dramatic and whatever. But people are like, I don't know. Sometimes I like that royal British accent. Sometimes I just find so corny and like, but everyone loves it. So I have to get into it. I have to watch it and see what it's about. So that one is probably next on my list.
I can say it's very sexy.
Okay, perfect. Right up my alley. Right up there with anime and Korean. Perfect. Yeah, I see everyone. Yeah, everyone's gawking over all the dudes on that show. So I'll have to get in on it. And
maybe you can watch Karate Kid Part 3 so that you can get a glimpse of maybe what's to come for next season.
Maybe we'll see.
Oh my God, Xolo, I almost called you Miguel. Thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me. I hope that you are well and having already a good 2021.
Of course. Yeah, you too. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Of course. Take care.